must have been quite confusing to those who were listening to him. But Jesus had a point that I thought of when I was eating this wonderful beef stroganoff that I was eating last night that my wife so lovingly prepared. We say we have to work so that we can pay the rent. We have to work so that we can buy food. And while it's true, we need to eat food. That was all they saw. So they wanted Jesus to do more signs. Signs like that gave them something that they could touch, feel, taste, see. And he gives them this cryptic answer that says, I am the bread of life. I am the one who came down from heaven. Well, okay, now everything's kind of messed up. But it kind of points out to what we lose sight of. When we were in second grade, most of us, we made our first communion. And it was a big deal. The whole party or pageantry of it all. But if you grew up in an era that I grew up in, and you were in Catholic schools, the nuns made sure you understood where you were going and who you were seeing when you went up there. We were still second graders. What do we know? But there was a lady, a young girl. I'm going to share a story with you, and I don't like reading long stories like this, but I think if you don't know this story, you will come to appreciate what Jesus was trying to say today. Some of the pilgrimage which go to Fatima visit the town of Balasar, many miles north of Fatima. It became famous in 1832 when the earth changed and there was an appearance of a large cross, which can still be seen today inside the cathedral that was built over it. There's a young girl there by the name of Alexandrina Maria de Costa. She was about 14, I believe, at the time, and she and her sister were at home with a friend. They were alone. And 3 men came to the door. One of those men had assaulted Alexandrina before. And she decided she was not going to give herself up to anyone, especially not this man. So she jumped out of a second floor window. And she irreparably damaged her spine. Well, that leads us to about within 3 years, she was bedridden entirely. And she had visions. She had ecstasy, as they say, of Jesus speaking to her. And in some of these conversations, the first one, in fact, Jesus said to her, Lord, love, suffer, and make reparation. Well, Alexandrina understood that to mean that she was supposed to be a suffering servant of the Lord. She continued her life for many, many years, but in the last 13 years, she started to act on her faith in the Eucharist, mostly. She had continual ecstasy visions. In one of them, Jesus said, keep me company in the Blessed Sacrament. I remain in the tabernacle night and day, waiting to give my love and grace to all who visit me. But so few come. I am so abandoned, so lonely, so offended. Many do not believe in my existence. They do not believe that I live in the tabernacle. They curse me, others believe, but do not love me and do not visit me. They live as if I were not there. You have chosen to love me in the tabernacle, where you can contemplate me with eyes of the body, but those of the soul. Not with just eyes of the body, but those of the soul. I am truly present there as in heaven, body, blood, soul, and divinity. She goes on and says in the next vision, Jesus tells her, you will not take food again on earth. Your food will be my flesh. Your drink will be my divine blood. So on Good Friday, 1942, she began an absolute fast, which lasted for more than 13 years. The only nourishment that she had for her pain-filled body was that of Jesus in Holy Communion each morning. News of her fast spread far and wide, and crowds became bigger and bigger to come and see her. Therefore, the authorities, thinking she was crazy, had her admitted to the hospital for observation. They tried to coax her into eating, and she said, I cannot eat, I am full. I have no longing for food except Christ. While she was in the hospitals, they continued to persist. Finally, the doctors gave up. Her abstinence, and this is a report from eyewitnesses, her abstinence from solids and liquids was absolute during 13 years. We testify also that she retained her weight, her temperature, her breathing, her blood pressure, her pulse were all normal, while her mental faculties were constant and lucid. And she had not, during these 40 days, which was the time in the hospital, had any natural necessities. The laws of physiology and biochemistry cannot account for the survival of a sick woman. While medical science could not explain, the explanation was simple. Jesus had said to Alexandrina, you are living by the Eucharist alone, because I want to prove to the world the power of the Eucharist and the power of my life and soul. She died on October 13, 1955, having received nourishment only from Holy Communion for more than 13 years, as I stated earlier. Some of the pilgrimages to Fatima visit her town of Balasar. You can visit her house, the room where she stayed, visit the local church where she's buried to the left of the altar. I'm going to leave you with today's gospel and the quote from Jesus. I am the bread of life. He who comes to me will never be hungry. He who believes in me will never thirst. You are living by Eucharist alone because I want to prove to the world the power of the Eucharist and the power of my life and soul. He asked us to keep him company in the Blessed Sacrament. We spend very little time with him. We either lose track of the fact of the power of the sacrament. We know it, but we don't embrace it. Alexandrina did. And it kept her alive much longer than she would have lived otherwise. But just think for a second what a little sliver of bread and a little wine is not nourishment enough for a human being. It's impossible. All things are possible with God. name of the Lord Jesus.